from your local election headquarters. This is Politics Today with Jackie Kingston.
Coming up, Amarillo ISD has multiple bond projects proposed. We'll take a look at what each proposition will include. And there's controversy about missing campaign signs in a local race. We'll talk to both candidates involved about who did what and why. Hello, good morning. Welcome back to Politics Today this week. While early voting is underway in the March primary, Amarillo ISD is already looking to May. The Amarillo ISD Board of Trustees took action during Friday's special meeting to host a bond election in May consisting of 4 propositions that would cost approximately $286 million if they're all passed altogether. Proposition A, which is projected to cost around $180.6 million, would include Austin Middle School replacement, roof replacement, fine arts additions, renovations, updates to network cables throughout the district, and various security measures as well. Proposition B, which is projected to cost around $19 million, would include improvements to Dick Bivens Stadium. Proposition C, which is projected to cost at around $38.3 million, would include the construction of a new natatorium, a new pool. Proposition D was a proposition brought forward by board member Don Powell during Friday's meeting. The proposal is projected to cost around $48 million. It would cover the construction of an indoor multi-purpose facility for each high school campus in that district. We'll keep you apprised as we get closer to that election. Both candidates for 181st District Court Judge say their campaign signs have been disappearing. At the center of this, a video circulating on social media causing a stir. So last week, incumbent Judge Tatiana Frausto's campaign Facebook page posted what looks like security camera footage. The video shows someone in a pickup with a sign for her opponent, Todd Hatter, on the side. The video shows that person removing her sign and tossing it in the dumpster. Now, we don't have permission from the owner of the video to show that to you here, but Frausto tells us this video is one instance of her signs disappearing. But there's another side to the story, too. Politics Today's Kaylee Green has more.
Hatter tells me the business gave him permission to put his signs up where the video was taken, and the business gave him permission, he claims, to remove his opponent's campaign signs. He has a letter he says proves they gave him that permission. Frausto says she also received a letter from that same business saying she could remove her opponent's campaign signs.
Were you the one that removed Judge Frausto's sign?
The signs were removed by Hatter campaign, absolutely. But I've seen some post about missing signs all over town. Well, I'm missing signs too. Who knows? Panhandle win? Theft? I don't know. It could be anything.
Even with being told you have permission to take your candidate's, another candidate's sign down, I would never do something like that. There's enough space for all of us to have our signs there and for voters in the community to decide who they're going to cast their vote for.
Here's why both candidates say they should be elected.
The office of the judiciary we are held to a high standard. I conduct myself with honesty, with integrity. I want to be a good representation for the members of this community.
We want transparency. We want to know what happened in our cases. My promise to the voters, there'll be no politics. There'll be no favors. Decisions that flow will not be impacted by political connections, race, or money.
So we did reach out to the business where that footage was taken to ask what permission they granted and to whom. They answered no comment. Frausto and Hatter are the only 2 candidates on the ballot for this position in the Republican primary. A federal judge in San Antonio ruling to temporarily block part of Texas's election bill. It all stems from a lawsuit over a provision that makes it a criminal offense for election officials and workers to promote mail-in voting. And the provision could cost elections officials up to $10,000 and put them behind bars if they're caught encouraging voters to get mail-in ballots. That's causing some election officials to believe that they were unable to tell voters how to fix errors in a mail-in ballot request, fearing it could be seen as encouraging vote by mail. The Secretary of State's office says that's now cleared up.
I think some people are confusing solicitation with education. Education is always allowed and even encouraged. It's just the solicitation provision is what prevents them from sending out those unsolicited mail-in ballot applications.
We're actually going to hear more from Taylor later on in this show, so stay with us for that. The Texas Secretary of State has announced a proposed amendment election. Governor Greg Abbott has issued a proclamation setting May 7th as the day of that special election. There are 2 proposed constitutional amendments that will be on that ballot. You can find more information on those proposed amendments and a full list of candidates who are currently running on myhighplains.com. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, Texas State Senate District 31 candidate Kevin Sparks making a campaign stop here in Amarillo. The event was held at Hodgetown on Wednesday. Both Sparks and Patrick discussed the potential battles that they say they're facing ahead of the March 1st election.
There are 31 state senators, and currently there's not a single state senator that has any oil and gas experience, which when you understand that the energy industry represents more than 25% of the state's whole economy, I mean, it seems it would only make sense that you'd have someone who has good knowledge of the industry as you're debating those issues in the Senate.
The District 31 Senate seat came open this year after Kel Seliger announced that he would not be seeking re-election last year, rather. There are several other candidates who are running for Senate District 31. They are Stormy Bradley, Jesse Quackenbush, Tim Reed, in addition to Sparks. Republican candidates running for Lieutenant Governor besides Patrick are Tracy Bradford, Todd Bullis, Daniel Miller, Aaron Sorrells, and Zach Vance. The Democratic candidates for that seat, Michelle Beckley, Carla Braley, and Mike Collier. At Cannon Air Force Base, the main focus is protecting the U.S. and everyone who lives here. Coming up next, as the world is changing, learn how the base is evolving its strategies against United States adversaries. I'm Jackie Kingston. You're watching Politics Today from your local election headquarters. For the last 20 years, the mission of Cannon Air Force Base centered around the war on terror and supporting the forces in the fight. Now, Cannon Air Force Base is evolving its strategies against U.S. adversaries. Politics Today's Rochelle Hamilton Jr. has more in this exclusive Inside Look.
Cannon Air Force Base isn't going anywhere.
We're starting to look at the world at large.
But its mission is evolving.
And the world as a whole is getting to the point where it's they're able to compete with the United States in arenas that haven't traditionally been arenas of competition.
Those arenas, according to the Department of Defense, include conventional, nuclear, cyber, space, and informational. And the DoD is working to protect the national interest in a strategy called integrated deterrence.
It's bringing the entire spectrum of capabilities that the United States has to bear on adversaries, and that includes still the military defense capabilities.
So what's the concept behind integrated deterrence?
Deterrence is at its heart an act of dissuasion. You are trying to dissuade an actor from taking an action, a violent action that could undermine your vital national interests.
Dr. Call says the benefits of the strategy can be applied in a number of ways, including
deterrence by denial. That is, how can you deny the benefits of aggression through some mix of defense and resilience, or casting doubt on the effectiveness of the other side's attacks. And there's also what some people call defense by entanglement, which is creating a normative and rule-based order around which the benefits of maintaining the status quo are elevated, and if actors step out and commit aggression, they can be confident that they will meet an international community which imposes diplomatic costs, economic costs, and military costs on them.
So how does all of this affect Cannon? Commander Saylor says it's evolving.
We've gotten used to just show up, give me a mission, and I'm going to go fly it.
That might be 04012.
Give me my teammate I'm going to go work with, and I'm going to go protect him. But the world's not that simple anymore. One of the things that the 17th Special Operations Squadron is trying to do is to become fluent in all of those domains, whether it's the cyber domain, or it's the information domain, or it's the kinetic fires domain that we've gotten good at in the past, or it's integrating with the diplomatic domain. How do we integrate with the Department of State? How do we integrate with those people that are already on the ground in other countries doing the jobs? How do we come help them? And so we have to find ways to bridge that gap, and that's new. And so we have to grow and develop to meet that challenge.
In Clovis, Rochelle Hamilton Jr., KAMR, Local 4 News.
So their mission may be evolving, but Cannon is still an Air Force base. The story continues after this quick break. Coming up, the base is now home to a few AC-130J gunships. We're going to get a look at the Air Force's newest aircraft to serve our country right in our own backyard. Madeline's call. Cannon Air Force Base took delivery of the newest AC-130J gunship back in July, and we got to ride along with the 17th Special Ops Squadron. Politics Today's Rochelle Hamilton Jr. is back to continue our exclusive inside look.
The AC-130J Ghost Rider is a beast.
Our role and our job is to meet national security goals by providing close air support to special operations and conventional forces,
satisfied, gun 2 is safe,
as well as providing non-traditional intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance or interdiction missions.
And it all goes down right in our own backyard, operated by the men and women of the 17th Special Ops Squadron at Cannon Air Force Base in Clovis, New Mexico.
Jackal 17 Zeus 99, looks like I got your feed here, looks like I got a good tally on target.
The AC-130J is the 5th generation gunship, replacing the older fleet of AC-130s. These gunships have a long combat history dating back to Vietnam, where they destroyed over 10,000 trucks and performed many life-saving missions, according to the Air Force.
It's the evolution of 50 years of gunship experience. It started in Vietnam when they first decided to research trying to use side-firing weapons out of a cargo plane.
Over time, America's adversaries evolved, and so too did its missions.
About the mid-2010 time frame, we started thinking a little bit bigger. We started looking at how can we put some precision-guided weapons? How can we enhance the capabilities of our aircraft and our weapons system?
And enhance they did, with some of the biggest cannons you've ever seen. And a slew of precision-guided weapons like small-diameter bombs and precision-guided missiles.
That gave us better situational awareness, better ability to defend our team, and better weapons, more accurate weapons that sometimes offered a bigger punch, sometimes they just offered a better scalpel.
So, what's it like to fly this bad boy?
These new planes, they're built within the last couple of years, so the just technology advancement that we have is amazing. Like it's a very special aircraft to fly.
Amazing technology. A well-trained crew.
14 Sierra, Kilo Delta 41890.
All for one purpose.
Our job is to be ready to go anywhere, anytime, any place.
To watch all 4 stories in that series, as well as bonus raw footage, you can head to our website. That's myhighplains.com. And our thanks to Cannon for allowing us such great access to their staff and their equipment for those stories. I know our crew had a super great time shooting them. They enjoyed it a lot. From correcting mail-in ballots to other changes due to SB1, a lot of questions about this primary election. Coming up, we're talking with the Secretary of State's office about what has changed and how they're making sure your vote is secure and counted. Early voting is happening right now. There have been questions across the country about the safety of our election system. Will your vote count? I had the opportunity to speak with the Assistant Secretary of State for Communications at the Texas Secretary of State's office, Sam Taylor, to discuss some of those questions, get his answers, and talk about the state of our elections in the state of Texas. Here now, part of that interview.
Sam, in our community up here in the Panhandle, which you're familiar with, having worked for Congressman Arrington, we are talking a lot lately about paper ballots. There is and I know that you know a lot of this, you're apprised of this, but there's a Potter County Republican chair, the Potter County Republican chair, is very interested in switching from our normal process, what we're used to maybe here, using voting machines, to going back to a process of paper ballots. Can you talk to me about the paper balloting process? Talk to me about what that would take. I know some counties in Texas do that in their elections, so it's possible to do, but talk to me about the process.
Yeah, no, the high level is that it's possible to do, and the county parties, when they run their primaries, they have every choice to run those elections on election day the way that they want. So the way that it works in Texas is that during the early voting period for the primaries, the counties run voting, and then on election day, the parties themselves actually run voting. So The county parties, the county GOP, the county Democratic Party, have every prerogative to run the elections the way that they want on election day. However, a lot of counties have, so what was done last session is a bill was passed called SB 598. And it was, aside from SB 1 and, the larger election integrity overhaul, SB 598 was kind of one of the most important bills that was passed last session that really represents a sea change for Texas voters. It requires that by 2026, all voting systems in all 254 Texas counties not only have an electronic option, but an electronic option that produces a paper record, right? And that was something that has been gaining in popularity over and over from voters from both sides of the aisle, is that, we like the convenience of going in and voting quickly on the election machines and getting our results quickly, but we also want to have a physical paper record so that in the event that the machines malfunction or something is wrong with the machines, at the end of the day, we've got a paper record of those votes. So, and I think that has been a long time coming. The legislature finally required it. I know Potter County just purchased new machines, and they're going to be rolling those out this summer, and those will be in place for the November general election. But for now, the older machines are the ones that are just purely electronic. They're called DREs, direct recording electronic machines. And those are ones that a lot of Texas counties have used for the past 10, 15 years after what was called the Help America Vote Act. So after the 2000 elections, when Florida had that issue with the hanging chads and inability to determine the intent of the voter, went to a big famous Supreme Court case called Bush v. Gore. After that, in 2002, Congress passed the Help America Vote Act. And in those federal laws are certain requirements that election authorities, and in Texas, those are the counties, adopt electronic voting machines to be able to allow, for example, disabled people to vote, people who are blind and need Braille, people who are deaf and need an audio assistance to read them the choices that they're choosing on their ballot. So those things became standardized as a result of that federal law, and then that was also codified into Texas law as well. So those electronic voting machines had been gaining popularity. All counties adopted them in one form or the other. There's two different vendors in Texas right now that sell those machines, and they all now offer an option that has that paper record as well. So that's just a little bit of the history of why we've got electronic voting machines in the first place, and why, Congress, after the Help America Vote Act was passed, sort of forced states and local election authorities to move away from purely paper systems to accommodate for people with disabilities and other criteria that the election equipment had to meet in order to make sure that elections were secure and that votes could be counted accurately and quickly, and that in the event of any irregularities, they could go back and check and make sure those votes are stored in multiple locations, so that if one, if the machine gets messed up or a hard drive that's attached to it gets messed up, at least there's a backup somewhere to make sure that those votes are being counted accurately. So I think we are in a position right now, as of, I checked earlier this week, actually, only 30 counties in Texas have not yet begun the move to go to a hybrid voting machine system, meaning an electronic system with a paper record. So there's about 30 counties in Texas that have yet to purchase new voting machines that fulfill that requirement. They've got some time. They've got until 2026 to comply with that. But we are well on the way to having every single Texas county adopt those new voting machines and have a paper record, because that's now required by the legislature.
Taylor spoke with me about a number of other topics: voting machines, mail-in ballots, much, much more. You can see that full interview, plus our team coverage with Politics Today's Kaylee Green, all on our website, myhighplains.com. We'll wrap things up right after this. Stick with us. Early voting for the March primary first election kicked off last week. To find your nearest polling location, you can scan this code on your screen. How cool is that? There are plenty of races on the ballot, including party races for Texas governor, attorney general, U.S. House District 13, State Senate District 31. Lots going on. Election Day is March 1st. We will continue to have coverage leading up to that day and the night of as well here on Politics Today and on KAMR Local 4 and myhighplains.com. Don't forget that you can like us on social media. Follow me on Facebook, Jackie Kingston, plus follow me on Twitter, Jackie Kingston, plus the number 1 there. And again, our website, myhighplains.com, the place to go to prepare yourself to go and vote early in this election. A lot of consequential races happening in this primary, so make it a point to do so. Bye.